Yeah. Because we have to water.
It's so much easier.
Yeah, they were all.
I can't believe
See what it does. It comes down, just touch it again. The only time it stays on is that was a party for the check. I don't know to the stuff that really are.
you were just eating.
I don't have to leave super early now, so chill out.
I'm always like, you can close fast. I'm always keeping sure.
Just this year.
I did. I did.
Just Oshkosh, that's what this is on like.
No,
It was interesting to see it from the other side. Well,
I don't know on Sunday.
And here's like or three, vehicles every day. Yeah, they come in the building. Yeah, well, they used to, the church over there.
I had copies. That's the way this is. They used to set up the church over here. And this was a different.
This time when we redistricted, we did 9 items. The lower population of the district did over here.
It was mean or.
They took it that way.
Yeah.
I worked the first day.
No, you do have a massive weight.
And of course.
Imagine that, you're right in the soul.
I have stuff, but I mean, obviously. You don't work.
I never do, right?
I have it on right now. I mean, I never leave the house without my sunscreen. I got secondary sunburn. I worked my first day.
Oh, okay.
That's nice. And somebody says, have you been out in the sun so much? You go, how did you know?
I haven't had a sunburn since I was like probably this big.
But you're exposed to it out there.
I couldn't get out of it, so I mean, I was 9 hours without being able to get any shelter at all. So it
Sunscreen.
was rough. I'm sorry, you can kind of start, sorry, I'm quiet.
Okay, we will bring this meeting to order of the Aviation Committee. Thank you, everyone, for attending. We appreciate that. First item is approved minutes of July 6th, 2022 meeting.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve. Any discussion, any corrections? None. All those in favor say aye. Aye. And it's approved. Number 2, public comment on agenda items or any item under the jurisdiction of this committee. Does anybody from the public have anything to say at this time? Number 3, airport director's report. Item 8, East GA hangar project update. Jim?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. First off, I want to start by thanking the committee for being flexible and moving this meeting back a week. As we all know, we had a very busy week a couple weeks ago, and we're just unable to get everything done that we need to for this meeting. So appreciate everybody shifting it back a week. I will say, I think standing every August, we ought to have it the second week of the month. I think that would just be easier in our schedules. So appreciate everybody's ability to meet this morning. With that, our update on the hangar project, essentially, we have not been out to bid yet. That's been delayed slightly due to FAA's review process of some elements of the project, but we are anticipating being authorized to go to bid later this month with the bid opening in September. Once we have a contract awarded, once bids are open and a contract is awarded, we'll have a lot more definite construction schedule. But at this point, we're looking to begin any work that's associated with this project after the first of the year. So the demolition of the existing hangars will likely happen sometime between January and March in order to start prepping the site for once the ground is unfrozen to start with the site work for the buildings and then the pavement. And so that's a brief update, but with that, happy to answer your questions about the hangar project.
So just a quick caveat. So if it bids in September, when do you think the county would award a contract? I would think sooner than later.
So we'd award it through the Bureau of Aeronautics because that's how it's working.
Right.
We have state and federal funding associated with the project. We would likely have it awarded within 60 days of the bid opening. I think we have a clause in the bid documents that contractors have to hold their prices for 60 or 90 days. And it usually takes between 30 to 60 days to get the whole process done with the state.
Anybody else have any questions? Okay, thank you. Item B, business park development efforts.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. We were very fortunate for the second year in a row now to co-host a booth at AirVenture this year with not only Go EDC, which hosted with us last year, but also Visit Oshkosh. So we had a 40-foot long by 10-foot booth in Exhibit Hall C. And I would say I know Mary Beth and John were able to stop by because I brought you out there, and maybe Betsy.
We never actually stopped
didn't make it
there.
to the booth,
We
but
just kind of went around the runways, which was way cool.
yeah, but for those that didn't have a chance to stop by, I included a couple photos in your packet of what the booth looked like during one of the busier days. But I would say we've never had our marketing and development efforts at the level that we have today. And a lot of that is definitely in direct relation to our partners with not only Go EDC, but also the city. I think we had nothing but really positive feedback on our booth. But prior to AirVenture, we did send out a few e-blasts to our business park development contact lists in order to raise awareness of where we were on the grounds, that we had an exhibit space to come by and chat with us or set up a time to meet. So we sent out a more broad one a few weeks prior, and then about 2 weeks prior, we sent out a targeted one that was really aimed at folks that we knew were going to be there based upon our existing lists. And we also had a piece in the exhibitor newsletter for EAA. So we did quite a bit on the front end in order to raise awareness of where we were at the event. And during the event, we made a total of 55 business contacts, direct business contacts. I'd say that's thanks in large part to Go EDC and Kathy Greasy, who's in the back of the room. Kathy's actually a former EAA employee and used a lot of her past contacts in order to raise more awareness of what we have to offer and get our message to a larger audience than it probably has ever been before, at least at the AirVenture event. And out of those contacts, we developed 7 new prospects that we're continuing to have follow-up discussions with and meetings with now, kind of vetting them out, seeing if they're a good fit for the park and seeing kind of what their business plans are and their timelines for what their interest level is in being here. We're also nearing completion on our promotional premium boxes we talked about several months back, which are designed to keep that conversation going with some of our higher value prospects. Once we are complete on that, we will have the sample boxes to show the Aviation Committee, but essentially they're tailor-made pieces that are designed to promote the aviation business park and keep that awareness going with some of the folks we've had really good conversations with in the past. With that kind of concludes our update on business park development.
Just a couple of things. I thought the booth location was primo this year. A lot of people I know that were out there said, we found it. So it was a good location. So Kathy, if you were involved with that, thank you very much. The other little caveat was the little postcards at the booth. And this sounds kind of corny, but it was a good marketing. There were people lined up. You could write out a postcard and send it to someone. And Go EDC was basically in charge of that. And people thought that was great and they mailed them for you. you didn't have to pay the postage. So every day, young gal that I was talking to said, oh, I did 1,200 yesterday we mailed. So it was kind of a nice thing. It gathered people in that building and they filled them out. And I thought it was kind of interesting marketing. So I think that was handled real well. So thank you on that.
Can I have a question on that? So you guys gave a postcard and then they were able to write it
Right at the booth,
and then they would write to whomever they wanted to, and then you would just send it out? Oh, okay.
mail it at the post office and they were sending them to,
But the front of it was, do you have a? do you
Yeah,
have
I've got them in the, I'll bring one in.
I
after
was
the
just
meeting.
curious what it looked like.
yeah,
So they were specifically designed for the event, and said, greetings from Oshkosh. I'll bring one in after the meeting. But the Visitors Bureau, I believe, and Kathy may have one. There you go. Pass it around. So the Visitors Bureau, I believe.
There's contact information on the back.
Yeah. I believe the Visitors Bureau paid the postage.
Yes, they did, yeah,
So the
over
visitors-
2,000 went out.
Yeah, so the Visitors
All
Bureau
56.
paid the postage on the postcard. And you could send it to wherever you wanted. I think there was quite a few countries also represented.
Yeah, I think there
so-
were 20 maybe.
Yeah.
On that range.
So it went international and it really was a huge draw to the booth of getting people in. And I would say our booth, kind of see from the pictures, one end was the fun, the middle part was like,
A long
in the
easy.
middle, it's, talking about living and working in Oshkosh.
A long easy.
There you go, yeah. And then our end was all business with the business park. So it's good mix of things.
okay. Item C, Air Venture recap.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. So I don't want to steal any of EA's thunder, but they did put up their numbers to the world beginning part of last week. And we really had a record here. Record attendance, perfect, yeah, perfect weather throughout. I talked with quite a few volunteers that have been doing this for many more years than me. And no one could remember, at least, a week that we had such consistently good weather. And not only that, it was consistently good. It wasn't too hot. It was low 80s, no rain throughout the week, really. And so that was a huge factor in the event and the success that we saw. We did survive one storm the Saturday prior, if you're familiar with that. So we kind of hold my breath a little bit on that with thousands of light airplanes on the field, but everybody was really tied down very well because we all drove, a bunch of us drove around, tons of people from EAA, our staff, drove around after that, storm blew through. And I think I only have heard one report, and it was out of maybe Pioneer of an airplane.
Unfortunately, a pretty significant museum piece that pulled all 6 rebars out of the ground. And flipped over on its back and then slid up into a tree in front of the lodge. So restoration project.
Yeah. So we were able to, mostly survive.
See what they said.
We'll mostly survive unscathed. There was a lot of tipped over porta potties and trash cans, and shredded tents. But I'm sure Walmart had a real banner year-end tent sales. But most aircraft I've ever seen on the airfield at one time, at our high water mark, probably midweek around Wednesday. Really a testament to the planning that we've engaged in with the EAA on getting improvements all the way down to the south end to get aircraft camping all the way down to County Road N on the south end of our property. We held the honor flight for the first time since 2019 and the very first time in this building. There was a lot of coordination prior to having the honor flight on Friday, in the weeks prior. And while it is a little bit tight for 200 plus people, we were able to stop by that morning. We received nothing but positive comments from everybody that went on the flight, but then also American Airlines and all of the other partners involved in Old Glory Honor Flight. Going to DC. Of course, that returned back over to the West Ramp with a water cannon salute and the whole ceremony. And then last but not least, our staff did an amazing job all week. We have got some newer folks on our staff and some people that have been here a while, but really a well-oiled machine from start to finish. We dealt with a number of accidents, aircraft accidents earlier in the week. I don't know if Jason can touch maybe a little bit more in depth on that, but the Sunday prior was not a lot of fun. Sunday afternoon prior, we had a lot of things, like every hour, something could go wrong. It was going wrong. Thankfully, no one was injured. We did a few aircraft accidents, a few kind of what we consider fender benders. But just a whole myriad of things that Sunday, and then a few little ones throughout the week. But again, the goal always is to have a safe event, and I think we did that. So again, kudos to our staff and all their efforts for the entire week. And I'll just point out that it's not just 1 week, it's several weeks before they get a break, because we're going pretty heavy all the way through July since the 4th on getting ready for the event. So thank you to everybody.
Any comments from anybody on the committee? Okay. Item 4, Deputy Director's Report. Hangar painting RFB. Cameron?
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Yeah, so we're back into hangar painting. Taken a couple-year break. Last hangar we painted was 2020, and then a few years before that. So we're issuing a request for sealed bids for painting the hangars A and B on the north side. Those are our North T hangar rows, and then a portion of hangar row C that's got some paint issues. So resurfacing that and then painting hangar C as well. We issued the bids on August 3rd. We're going to have a pre-bid meeting on August 15th here, and then they're due on the 24th. So there's already 12 plus plant holders. So hopefully we get some good bids out of that. That's all I have, unless there's any questions on that.
Any questions on that?
I'll only add that the A and B units were built in the early 70s, and that's the original paint on those hangars. So it's time. It's definitely time. And we'll be reimbursing the project with our CARES Act funding. So essentially, as long as we come in under our budget on the bids, we'll more or less be getting that paid through federal grant. So be good project to get done, extend the life of those hangars.
Sounds good. Item 5, discuss and approve a revision to Winnebago County General Code, Chapter 21, Airport Ordinance.
All right, so chapter 21 of the county general code is the airport ordinance, is what we call it. And that covers rules for vehicles on the airfield, parking, and then our rates and charges. That's the bulk of it. And so we are updating this a little bit later than we normally would update on a cycle, so typically 5 years, but we decided not to increase rates during the pandemic. So now we're doing that, and we're simply trying to get our rates just to match CPI, which is how almost all of our leases are built, increased by CPI. So the last update we did to this ordinance was 2016, and between 2016 and 2022, when I started this study, the CPI was 17%. So that's how much we are raising almost all the rates for land leases and for T-hangar rentals. There are a few T-hangars that are not on the ordinance, but we handle those with leases that have CPI adjustments in them, so they've already been keeping up. In addition to changing the rates, we had some rules in there that were related to airlines. So back in the day, we used to have paid parking here, and we don't have paid parking, so we got rid of the rules related and penalties related to paid parking. And then we also looked at neighboring counties to update the penalties and fines, which are minimal, but things like parking fines and leaving your car here disabled or something like that. So those are all in line with neighboring counties. They were just raised a small amount. And then also the third thing that we did was changed some of the language to match FAA's modern language. So for example, calling the AOA the aircraft operations area, which is what it's called. It was called something else in the old one. So we're updating things like that. So that is all I have. Unless you have any questions, and we did include the new one in there, and then the link to, hopefully you're able to open that to see the original version to compare. But we're recommending approval of this airport ordinance update.
So my comment is I took 2016 and 2022 and sat them down and did my thing. And I'm not going to micromanage what's going on out here, but there seemed to be this consensus from some people on the county board that we needed to get this done. So Cameron just explained why there's 17%. Some of them are out quite a bit, but nothing's been done for 5 years, so 6 years.
If I can interrupt, I should mention one more thing. We added a commercial land lease rate. So any new land leases that come to us or renewals would fall that are operating under our commercial minimum standards. So businesses that are doing aviation business here on the airport would have this new lease. A lot of airports are moving that way or already have a separate commercial and a private land lease. And so we came up with, I believe it was 25 cents per square foot per year for the commercial land lease rate. And that was using other airports in the state, comparing to them.
What's the private rate?
We're suggesting it goes from 16 cents to 19
The
cents.
19 cents, so 19 cents versus the 25 cents per
That would
commercial
be the
versus
commercial.
private, okay.
And by the way, all the land leases, if our tenants are already in a lease, that they're already covered, they're getting CPI increases and they're under that lease. So these land lease rates would only be for new leases.
Meant to raise the bar for new leases as far as keeping up with inflation. I mean, we haven't had an adjustment on any of these for 6 years, and so it's well overdue.
If I could just, if I bought a hangar or rented a hangar in 2016, I would have started at that base rate that we had, that's currently on the ordinance, but I'd be paying a higher rate 6 years down the line.
Approximately 17%. Yeah.
17%, right. So I noticed we did have a fiscal note. Is there much of a fiscal impact like right away, or is it more something that we sort of like accrue down the line? Because if I give up my lease and Mary Beth takes it on, she's gonna, instead of paying the going back to step one, she's gonna pick up right where that current, essentially where that current rate is.
So any of our T hangar rentals, they would be paying the new rate, whether they be existing or new tenants, as soon as the ordinance is approved by the county board. So the next step is to bring it to personal and finance next month, and then county board also in September. So, if you were paying $155 per month in our lowest rent hangar in the A, B, and C units, for example, and it's about $25 a month increase, but they haven't had an increase in 6 years.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, all of our land leases that have built it, and land leases really are some are a bit different. The ones that have been executed 20, 30 years ago, and the ones we're doing now are a bit different. So, the land leases all dictate what it says in their lease, how they get their increases. So the majority of them have been getting increased by some measure, whether it be a straight percentage or CPI. Whereas the ones that are published in our ordinance for renting, primarily T hangars, haven't been increased in 6 years.
Do we know then what the fiscal impact of this would be? Or are we still waiting for?
Yeah, I've aggregated that for 2023's budget, so I don't have the numbers from you right now.
Okay.
But imagine 17%. If you go to our year-to-date report, you can see what we have for basically hangar rent, and that's the majority of those increases. It's going to go to the hangar rent. I can get you that number after the meeting.
Does anybody on the committee have any questions on any of the pieces here? So if there is no more discussion, then I need a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the revision to Winnebago County General Code, Chapter 21 Airport Ordinance. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you. Item 6, operation and maintenance update. Lisa?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, as you know, we've been very busy this last month of July. So to kind of break it down, one of the largest things that we do, or the most time consuming things that we do for AirVenture, is to do all the paint, which changes taxiway alpha into 1/8 left and 3/6 right. With that, we usually start shortly after the 4th of July, start painting. And this year we put down 226 gallons of temporary and permanent paint, and we ended up removing most of that paint. Most of it is temporary paint. So once the show's over, we have to get out there with pressure washers and pressure wash all of the paint off. We were able to secure a rental pressure washer this year, so we had 2 pressure washers going, which saved us some time. It went from, it took us 3 days this year versus over a week in past years, so that was definitely a time savings there. As Jim mentioned, we had the honor flight, and with that, we coordinated with Oshkosh Corporation, who supplied a loaner ARF firefighting vehicle. And we had our mechanic at Carpenter in one of our older ARF trucks for the water cannon salute. So that was nice to see us working with Oshkosh Corporation and to be able to salute all those veterans that were getting the well-deserved thank you and return home. In terms of aircraft incidents and accidents, the airport crew responded to 10 of those. I think we lifted maybe 3 or 4 of those planes, either to secure the landing gear or to put it on a trailer. But thankfully, there were no injuries or anything worse than that. So overall, everything went very well. And yeah, the guys are looking forward to a much needed break. During AirVenture, we go to 2 shifts. And so we split it up between the 2. Between the 2 shifts, they work about 9 hours apiece, just so we have coverage for the whole show in case something happens on the airfield. So, not to mention all the overtime beforehand, getting ready for the show. So they're all wore out and ready for a break. But I'm happy that everything went very well this year. That's all I have.
Do you have any questions of Jason? Number 7, EAA report.
Yes, good morning. Chair, members of the committee. I don't have a lot to add to what Jim and Jason just shared, other than it was an incredible year, and partnership that we are continuing to grow and evolve is stronger than ever. Jim and staff, we had to respond to a lot of curveballs during the week. We almost filled up as far as parking. We were actually looking at and considering opening up the new area through the fence. Thankfully, we didn't have to do that this year. We didn't have proper planning to move towards that for next year. But given the level of traffic and aircraft and people, an amazing week. And we couldn't do it without that partnership. So to Jim and Cameron and Jason and all of your staff, we owe you a huge thanks. Incredible. Just to put it in perspective, on Wednesday, which was one of our peak days, we have several days from an air traffic standpoint that are larger than most. But this was shared at the morning briefing. Jason, I think you have probably heard this. Just on our airfield alone, on Whitman, we did 2,602 aircraft operations. In comparison, Atlanta Hartsfield did 2,147. O'Hare did 2,101. So that's just our airport. If you add in Fisk and the temporary tower down at Fond du Lac, which are part of the event, we did well over 1,200 operations more than the 2 busiest airports in the entire national airspace system. So pretty amazing that this event has that kind of traffic and that overall level of activity. So just again, thank you, and we're already working on next year.
Thank you, Sean. Does anybody have any questions for Sean or any comments? Chairman's report, a couple of things. I want to thank you, fellow committee members, for allowing us to have the meeting today. I appreciate you changing your schedule for that. So I wanted to. And here's a little EAA note. So I talked to 2 people who had never been here before, and it was amazing their enthusiasm when they came, and they couldn't believe what was all happening here. And those of us that have been around for a while, we know what happens, but these 2 particular gentlemen were just amazed at what all transpires, what services are available, what the setup is all about, and all the volunteers. So it was interesting to hear from somebody's perspective on never being here before. And again, good weather, couldn't have asked for better. And I think our staff at Whitman did a great job. I could hear in the background things that were going on, and they were doing the best they could. And it was busy and hectic when John and I toured. And we didn't get the 3-hour tour, but we got an 1.5 hour tour. And when Jim gives you a tour, you get a tour.
It was
So
fantastic.
it was kind of nice just to see all of it taking place on that Wednesday of the EAA and the traffic flow and everything. So again, thank you, Jim, for another great tour. That's all I have. Number 9, committee member statements, suggestions, items for future agenda.
Madam Chair, if I may, I would suggest that at our next meeting, we take up with what Jim had mentioned about moving next year's meeting to the second Wednesday.
Sounds good.
So that way we know far enough out in advance that.
Yep.
There are any communication issues.
I agree with that. So we'll get that on the agenda.
I'll only say, I think 1 or 2 years, we didn't have an August meeting, so that's.
Right.
No, second Wednesday sounds good.
I'd like to make a comment.
I think,
I just want to say thanks also that they took me around on a nice tour and Cameron actually joined in, but it was super nice. Thank you guys for taking the time out because I know how crazy busy you were. And thank you.
If you saw pretty interesting, almost.
We almost saw an
little incident,
accident.
so.
It was pretty close. The guy was coming in. I really wish we would have had that on video because I don't know how he pulled that out and didn't hurt his airplane.
Actually, I recorded, you recorded everything else when you were out with us.
Oh,
We
yeah.
should have.
We just saw it from a distance and we were coming down the perimeter road on the east side and he was landing on, the person was landing on the skinny runway, Alpha.
No
And
idea how he
I
pulled
don't
that
know
out.
how he did,
I don't
how they
know.
did not go around, like, there was like multiple, like, all over,
All
like, just
over.
go around, just start
We
over.
basically went up to the runway to see if he lost a piece of his airplane. I mean, that's how bad he came down. And we were like, how did he do this without hurting his airplane? I have no idea.
There's a lot of pressure.
So it was kind of interesting. So thank you. And thank you for taking me. My friend had a vintage plane on the ground and we got to look at it, which was kind of cool.
right. Item 10, set next meeting date. I have Wednesday, September 7th.
Do you have a conflict on the 7th, although Cameron's fully capable of running the meeting. Or you're running the meeting, but we're leading for airport staff. But I would ask if it's possible to move to the 8th, which would be the Thursday, or the 14th, which is the following Wednesday, or you can keep it on the 7th and I will
That's
do my best. to
on
be
the
up.
8th, you have PNS.
I have PNF on the, yeah.
So maybe we keep it on the 7th.
Sorry, on the first.
I have oh, no, I have it on the 1st. You're right. Thank you for bringing it. I just happened to look that up because it's the first Thursday of the month. Is actually,
Yeah, the
Thursday is the 1st. So I'm clear on that one. So
I can also do it from Zoom.
Are you good on the 8th?
Yeah, might have to get out at 9, but
Okay,
it hasn't been a
John,
problem.
are
for a
you
while.
good on the 8th?
As of this moment, I am, I can't say what's gonna shake out in the next month.
Jeff?
Yes.
You're good? All right, so we'll switch it to Thursday, the 8th. You be here now.
Keep it on the 7th. I'll do it.
Okay,
Just try to back.
I need same time, 8 o'clock on the 8th. I need a motion to adjourn.
move to adjourn.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
And if anybody wants to learn how to play Mahjong today, I will be teaching it at the Neenah Public Library at 1.
What's that?
Okay.
Chinese too.
Yeah, it's an old Chinese tile game. I'm doing the American version. Am I still online? It's a
Is it like what they play in Vegas?
okay, so has anybody seen Crazy Rich Asians?